Did you know that you can get all the Star Wars news as it happens? It can be found on our website. That's right. And I bet you did know that because if you were watching last week or the week before, we've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. But if you go to the sswnetwork.com on the regular, you can keep up with all the Star Wars news in quick, easy to read news bites. And then here on the show every week, we pick a couple that stood out to us. And we go through them. Nick, what's a story that happened this week that you thought is worth talking about?
Well, the first one, and this is a story that we had kind of kicked around, a year or so ago. Gina Carano's wrongful termination lawsuit against Disney actually took a step forward this week. A California court has ruled in her favor. They have ordered Disney to comply with discovery demands. Carano claims her firing in 2021 following a controversial social media post cost her a role in the forecasted to be Rangers of the New Republic movie or series. Disney had tried to dismiss the case, but they failed. Now the court is saying Disney has to release salary details for other Star Wars actors within 20 days to assess fair wage comparisons. Carano, in a quote, called the decision a small breath of fresh air as the case moves into its next phase. So, Pete, here's the deal. Over a year ago, as this story, was kind of a first-time thing, you and I not being legal experts, but we were fairly confident that this would make it to court because this was somebody suing to try and get their job back. And this was somebody, who clearly, again, contract was not renewed, wasn't fired. There's a lot of that. But this is, we're wrong. This is moving forward in the courts at the time. So I'm asking you, what is the best, and I'll go with seemingly logical, in your opinion, outcome for Gina Carano in all of this? She sued to want to get her job back. We've talked about before. You don't get fired from someplace and sue and then be like, yeah, everybody's going to be fine if I come back to work here because the court said I had to. Like, weirdest work environment ever. So what is a win other than, a ridiculous sum of money, in your opinion?
I think what's going to end up happening, and, we said this when we first heard about this, either one of two things was going to happen. It was either going to get thrown out or they were going to settle out of court. Settling out of court is an admission of guilt. But I think at this point, if this continues on much further, Disney's not going to win no matter what at this point, because the court of opinion has already decided. The laser eyes YouTubers and the people who want to hate Disney already do, and the people who recognize that, Gina, here's the thing, and I've said this before and I will stick with this. Gina was not fired. Gina was just not renewed. Her contract was not renewed. It's like, if you and I were doing this and you were going off on some weird social media stuff and assuming we had contracts and I was just like, you know what, we're not going to renew your contract, Nick. It's just going to be me and Chris. And that's what's going to happen. And that's all it was. Her contract was up. They didn't renew, but it's just going to get uglier and uglier, and they're going to dig and dig and dig. So to me, I think Gina should just take some cash, and probably will, and call it a win, and then this thing will go away as it probably should have.
I think you're right.
Ago, so.
I think you're right. And I am glad we don't have contracts, even though you'd probably be better off if it was just you and Chris, but you're stuck with
I don't think so. I mean, your tweets are less obnoxious and controversial than mine, so we're probably better off. But we were saying before that Andor season 2 is preparing to premiere in just 2 weeks from this past Tuesday. Creator Tony Gilroy was reflecting on the show's unique journey in an interview with Empire Magazine. He credited the success of The Mandalorian and the support of Lucasfilm and Disney leadership, including Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger, for allowing Andor to take these bold creative risks. Gilroy noted that such a show with its grounded storytelling and practical effects may never happen again in this space. He also acknowledged the importance of Mandalorian and Grogu, stating that if you didn't have Baby Yoda, you wouldn't have Andor. And so as Andor moves forward and fans are expecting more ambitious storytelling in the Star Wars galaxy, Nick, I got to ask, do you think, is it fair to put so much of the success or failure of Star Wars on The Mandalorian? And that's not exactly what he meant by it, but maybe even, is it fair to say that without a successful Mandalorian, we wouldn't be maybe even 5, 6, 7 series into where we are now?
I think it is. And I'm going to come back to that because let's make no bones about it. Andor stands on its own 2 feet. Andor, season 1 was incredible. All the hype about Andor season 2, the expectations. It's one of the few things that has happened in Star Wars that, and I think he even, it said in one of the interviews and the articles that came out, like, it's one of the few things that's been left to do its thing and hasn't been messed with. And, give it to Tony Gilroy and let him run with this vision. It stands on its own. But I do think it is fair to put the success of it at the feet of The Mandalorian, because let's be honest, The Mandalorian launched an entire network. It launched the Disney streaming platform. And so not even Star Wars, but Marvel and National Geographic and all these things that Disney Plus has become. ESPN's doing daily Sports Center, 10-minute recaps every day. And Hulu's, like, the success of all of these things, it started with The Mandalorian. Like, that was the signature, kind of launching the signature flag that launched to get everything going. So I do think it makes sense. Now, beyond that, is every show that's made going to be The Mandalorian? No. There's going to be different shows, different tones, different, parts of it. You've got animation, you've got the preschool animation with Young Jedi Adventures. All of that stuff exists, but it created a platform and a space to go, how do we experiment? Do we create a West Wing style Star Wars with Andor? And, we go from there. But I think it totally makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think success breeds success, but it's not just one show. And even the ones that people just didn't necessarily like, it worked for somebody else. So it works there. So for sure. All right.
Absolutely. Well, let's do another story, and then we're going to keep this party moving because we've got some awesome guests that we want to talk to tonight. British Film Institute is going to screen the original unedited 1977 theatrical cut of Star Wars for the first time in decades at its second annual Film on Film Festival starting June 12th in London. The event will feature a rare dye transfer IB Technicolor print, one of the few remaining copies from the film's original British release. Public access to the original trilogy has been limited since the 2006 DVD release, and official remastered versions have yet to surface, despite being rumored. I don't want anybody to be too jealous, but I have my unedited original copies on this thumb drive right here that sits on my desk. But the screenings marks a historic moment for fans, offering a rare opportunity to experience Star Wars the way it was very first shown in 1977. Pete, my question is, this is very exciting for fans like us. This was the first thing we saw when it comes to Star Wars. But George Lucas has also publicly stated that he didn't want the original version shown anymore because to him it was an unfinished version.
Yeah.
So is it an okay thing to do to go against George's wishes? Is it okay? I mean, it's an art, and, who gets to critique the artist's art kind of deal. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, no, I think at this point, Star Wars is part of cinema history. It's part of pop culture history. It's bigger than George. It's bigger than Disney. It's, there's, two middle-aged guys here talking about Star Wars on Thursday nights. It's part of who we are. So, it's, it may not be George's final vision, but the first one that hit theaters certainly has value. And I don't think it's necessarily going against his wishes so much as it's saying, hey, this is where it came from. And so to me, I think it's a totally legitimate thing. And I do hope that eventually we have the choice to watch either one. Just I would still probably watch the latest version just because it looks the best and it's the best sounding and all that stuff. But just to have the option to watch it, it's sort of like, you ever go back, like, I'll never forget, like Hellraiser. When Hellraiser first came out, I was like, that was the most disturbing movie I ever saw. And then I went and I watched it again. I was like, it was not so great. and so now, like with the original Star Wars, I've been like, I want to see the way it looked. And you're gonna watch it and you're gonna be like, oh well, yeah, I'm glad he got back to be able to fix it up a little bit. So I don't see a problem with it, and I do hope we get to all get to see it at some point. So